everybody. Y'all, I'm so excited for today's podcast. I get to have one of my besties on the podcast, a fellow member of our sermon squad, which y'all probably heard me talk about, our Wednesday night group, and I'm just so thankful for her life, who she is, and I can't wait for y'all to get to know her. If you don't know her, you're missing out on about 200 hilarious Instagram videos a day because she is that friend, and we are all so grateful for it. It keeps us laughing, and I'm just glad to have you on the podcast, Grace. Thanks for being on.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, so obviously you're pregnant.
I am
people are watching.
very pregnant.
So, some of our friends have been on the podcast, and they've been nervous because they're on a podcast that a lot of people listen to, and there's a lot of lights in here and cameras, but you're nervous for other reasons, so you just want to get it out there.
I have a few things on my docket this morning that I just need to let y'all know about because they could run into some issues here. So I'm gonna be out of breath at times. You'll hear me take these like deep breaths or kind of like try to catch my breath, or I might just like, toss it to you so you can say something so that I can breathe for a second. And then I'm probably going to have to take a couple pee breaks. So y'all just bear with me. There might be some awkward editing in there from my exits that I have to make, but we'll get through it.
We're going to get
It'll
through
be great.
it. And I told her, I was like, look, they're used to me being pregnant twice now on this podcast. I got so out of breath. With Honey, she was like, her booty was in my rib cage like the whole last pregnancy.
We have some faithful followers.
Oh, we have faithful followers. Every time, I would throw it to people just so, we could edit it to where you just see their face so I could physically, push her butt down my rib.
I totally feel that.
If you need to start just moving her around and all the things, you do what you need to do.
Thank you.
Also, I've never heard anyone on this podcast say, I'm just going to toss it to you. See, this is why I love Sisters and Friends, because I get my real friends on here who are just like, Sadie, you're going to have to take this because I got to be.
That's right.
I love it. Well, I'm excited. For those who don't know you, because our friendship was really funny. We always talk about this. We have been friends for a while now and hang out all the time, and we have no pictures together.
Yeah, we really don't.
Which is actually so weird.
It's kind of sad.
I know, it is sad.
But hey, I tried to solve that. That's a funny story too.
You have to tell that story. This is pretty hilarious.
Okay, so because we have no pictures together, which you actually instigated it the week before our sermon group, she was like, we need to get a picture of all of us together. We don't have any pictures together. And so we were like, okay, we're going to do it. But then we were like, this is not the week. I don't know why. For some reason that week, we're missing people. I think a couple people were out of town. And so we're like, we'll do it next week. And then the next week rolls around. And I'm like, okay, perfect timing. We just found out we're pregnant. This is how we're going to tell all of them. So I'm like, we'll just say this is the classic, easiest way to go about it. We're going to take a picture. It'll actually be a video. We'll say, hey, we're pregnant, blah, blah, blah. Well, this particular sermon night, we had one person missing too. I think Parker was out of town. And we were planning to do it. Me and Brian, I had told him he knew. He had the video ready, all the things. And I'm like, okay, guys, let's take a picture. And Sadie was like, well, Parker's missing, maybe we should wait. And I was like, yeah, but look at Elise are here. They're not always here. Let's just take it. It'll be great. No. So the time kept passing. I mentioned it 3 times. No one was catching on. I was like, okay, this is not going to work.
I don't even know why I was like that. I was just like, no.
Well, it was crazy. I think Honey was running around. It was just kind of an off night anyways, I think. Yeah. And I think we had already eaten dinner. We were it was we were gonna wrap it up, and I had been nervous to do it, so I was pushing it off a little bit. And we are getting ready to wrap it up, and then for whatever reason, I kept mentioning the picture, and everyone was kind of I don't really. I think we were no one felt cute either. Yeah. They're I don't want a picture.
We didn't look very cute.
We're in our pajamas. We're nah, probably not. So then I'm okay, we got to pivot. And I told Brian, I was we have to do it now, because if it was if we were all going to be out of town following that. Yeah. So it was either now or wait a month or something. I was I can't wait that long to tell them. So then I was we got to pivot. I'm going to do it during the prayer request.
It makes me laugh so hard.
I'm just going to say hey, will y'all pray for a future baby? And I'm texting Brian, does that sound okay with you? Blah, blah, blah. You still got a video, all these things. He's yeah, that's fine. Just do it. And so then I'm all right, let's do prayer requests. I'm does anybody have any prayer requests? And one of our friends goes into a pretty serious.
He was very serious.
Prayer request. Oh, it's gonna make me cry laugh. A very serious prayer request. And so then I'm okay, and then I'm like, anybody else?
You're having somebody else to go. Like, that's not as serious.
Yeah, like, obviously, you know,
that.
Yes, yeah, I just needed something, like a little bit of a buffer there. So I'm like, anybody else? You know, and then it's just quiet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is not good, but I gotta do it. Like, now's the time, I gotta do it. So I'm like, okay. And I think I started out in like a super serious voice too, because I was like, I don't know how to follow that, like, all happy. So then I was like, I was just gonna ask if y'all would start praying for our baby, and then everyone, of course, was like, "Oh my gosh!"
We all freaked out. We were so happy and shocked, and then we all just started laughing because we were like, we all just had to acknowledge what just happened and the way that it just was said. It was honestly hilarious.
It was.
Thankfully, we're all really close to where our friend was laughing too.
Yes.
It was like,
she actually started crying.
Yeah, no, she was like so excited. She was like, forget what I just said. We'll pray about that later. Like, this is so important. So that was so awesome. Yeah, our sermon squad is awesome. And if you haven't ever heard us talk about Sermon Squad, we just get together on Wednesday nights, which recently through the summer and us having a baby, we've been a little bit scattered with that. But get together on Wednesday nights, watch a sermon together. Everybody brings food. Some nights we don't watch a sermon. Some nights we just play cards and hang out, but we call ourselves Sermon Squad. Yes. And I think it's really sweet because there have been times in my past, like even in high school and stuff, where I feel like I had like more pictures with friends and memories. Yeah. But I can truly say I have so many more memories with all the pictures. Sure. Like we have so many funny memories and not a lot of pictures to like look back on, but I would rather look back and be like, think about this night and that night and all the things that we've done. And we still have spend the night parties even though we're adults. Sometimes the guys will go stay the night with each other because they're all best friends, and the girls will, and it's a blessing for sure. It is.
It's so fun, and it's so special and sweet to have that. And really, I think the fact that we don't have any pictures is like a sweet thing too, because it just shows that we're in the moment and not worried about like, I don't know, capturing it. It's just we're enjoying each other's company. And
none of us are and you might be surprised listening to this because if you follow me on Instagram, I have a large following on Instagram, but I'm not really into social media. Yeah. And all of us are kind of like that. No one's like super on it. Yeah. Like there's not a lot of, I don't think anyone in our friend group probably has Snapchat that really uses it. You know, like nobody has a camera out, you know, so we don't really think about it. And then most of all of our pictures are of Honey anyways, because she's like everyone's kid.
She's our mascot.
She is our mascot.
Our groupie or
and
something.
And now we're about to have a lot more babies, obviously. Yes. So tell everyone a little bit about your life, your husband, your life right now, just so people can get to know you.
Yes, so I grew up on a farm in Mississippi, not too far from here. I was homeschooled. I have 3 older brothers, 1 younger brother, so I was the only girl. I feel like that contributes to a lot of my attributes and just the way that I handle teasing and different things like that.
Probably
pretty good at it. I feel like
who's very into that.
He is. He's a teaser for sure. And then, yes, I'm married to my husband, Bryant, who works out at Camp Chioka. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of that, but it's a sweet, sweet camp in Calhoun. It's where what made us love Louisiana so much. I started coming summer of 2015, which is where we initially met. And then came every summer after that, like just fell in love with it and really like grew so much there and had so many people pour into me in my life and just loved it. And so then the next summer, Bryant and I weren't officially dating yet, but I brought him with me. And he loved it and met some of his lifelong friends there too, Reeves and Jackson and all of those people who we're still friends with. And just forever friendships really is what we made at camp. And so it was just a really sweet place. And we came back as junior staff and then counselors and all the things. And that's kind of what brought us to Louisiana initially. Then we went back to Missouri, obviously, finished up our college. And then once Bryant had graduated that May, and I graduated in December, and then so we had kind of been praying about like, Lord, what do you want us to do? Where do you want us to be? And really our prayer was just like, if wherever you want us, just like please open doors, and wherever you don't want us, please close those doors. And so really started like praying through that, and the Lord just continually kept opening all these doors for us to come back to Louisiana, which is funny because like initially Bryant was like all excited about it and I was very hesitant. I was like, I don't know, like we're moving somewhere new, like just as scary and like away from our families and all these things. And then by the time like it came time to like make the decision and move, I just had so much peace. And we were like we started out so opposite. Like he was like, we're definitely going. And I was like, I really don't know. And then it was like, by the time it came time for us to move, we were at such a middle ground of like, cool. we could stay or we could go, but we prayed for the Lord to open these doors and he did. So we're going to be faithful and go. Wow. And so that was just really sweet. And the Lord has obviously blessed us so much since being here with like friends that we had prayed years for. And just like a community of people, like-minded people to get to do life with was like such a big prayer and something that we didn't have a ton of in our hometown. And our hometown that we were living in Missouri and doing college in is like a very big college town. So there's a lot of that atmosphere. And so a lot of people at the college age, I felt like, at least in our town, didn't take their relationship with the Lord seriously, you know? And so it was hard to find friendships that felt really like deep or rooted or had like more than just a surface level. And I have my few and my far between that I had, and they were the best, and I'm still really close with them. But it was just hard to find a good community there, especially for like both of us.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be a little overwhelming to start getting a healthy lifestyle whenever you're thinking about all the different things that you need to do and put into place, but actually starting a healthy habit can be pretty easy. Sticking to it is definitely a little bit harder, and that's why our family loves AG1, because AG1 is great because it's easy to start and it's easy to stick to. It's an all-in-one foundational nutrition formula that's packed with 75 high-quality vitamins, probiotic, and whole food source ingredients in every scoop. Christian and I love to feel healthy as much as we love to be healthy. It's just good to feel that way too, which is why we gave AG1 a try in the first place, because it's hard to take a bunch of pills. It's hard to start a whole new thing in your routine. This one is literally so easy. You just drop a single scoop into a glass of water like Christian does in the morning, and you immediately are going to feel a boost of energy, and it's going to help with your focus and help you sleep better at night. It's a daily habit that has really paid off for Christian, for us. We love AG1. It also improves digestion and gut health, which y'all hear me say all the time, but it really does make a big difference in your overall health. AG1 offers immune system support, which I'm super grateful for, with a house full of kids and a dog running around. AG1 is seriously the healthiest thing you can do in under 1 minute, making it so easy to take on the road. Anywhere you go, they have travel packs. I have them right here, as you can see. You can just throw them in your backpack. Christian keeps these in his backpack when we're on the road, because it can be really hard to stick to a healthy habit whenever you're traveling, but this is like the easiest one to stick to. Throughout us traveling and carrying them around, Christian's gotten other of our friends and family members hooked on them too when they see us take it, because it's literally so easy. You just open the pack, put it into some water, and you're getting 75 vitamins and minerals and all the good stuff for you. Another super simple thing you can add is a vitamin D3 plus K2 drops. I love vitamin D. It has been a game changer for me. I feel so much better when I'm consistently taking it, and they make it so easy with their little bottle at AG1. It also contains over 600 servings in this, and this is going to be good for your heart, bones, teeth. For me personally, I've noticed things like my skin is better, my nails are stronger, my hair is healthier, all just from taking vitamin D. So you guys should check that out, because those 600 servings will last you a pretty good while. And if you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, you just got to give AG1 a try. And you can get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Just go to drinkag1.com/woe. Again, that's drinkag1.com/woe to check it out today.
Moving here, the Lord has blessed us so much with that, and that's just been really, really sweet, and something that like every time I think about it, I get emotional. Like every time I would see Reeves and Lydia worshiping on stage at church, I would get emotional, because it just was like such a blessing and such an answered prayer that like for years I had prayed for, and now it's coming to fruition, and like I just don't want to take it for granted.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
I don't know, I got off on a rabbit trail there, but
that's perfect. I think that gives so much context for where y'all are at now. Yeah. And I think it really is cool that one thing you said when you were like, we were praying that God would open the doors or shut the doors. Like, one thing that I learned from you and that we've had great conversations about is like being prayerful about making decisions.
Yeah.
And you and Bryant certainly were for here. And I think that it's cool that you'll have this desire for godly friendships and community. And you were seeing that wasn't necessarily happening there. And you had definitely had some great friends who you're still friends with. But overall, as a culture. And yet y'all had seen something here just from camp and camp being here and stuff that you're like, okay, maybe we could find that there. And then you took a step of faith to come. And so one thing that I know you've been talking about lately is just that act of surrender and what that looks like whenever you don't know what's on the other side of something. Because I was talking to Christian about this the other day. We were talking about a decision that we have to make. And he was like, well, we don't want to do this yet because X, Y, and Z. Right. And I was like, here's the thing. Like, this decision is always going to require faith. Like, even if we got X, Y, and Z, would it really change your mind? Like, I was like, it's going to require faith. So we have to ask ourselves, like, is this something that we can surrender the fear, surrender the money that it's going to take, the faith and all that kind of stuff, and just say, you know what, God, even without this, like, because you said it, we're going to do it. We're going to go. Which is a hard place to get to.
It is.
Easier said in that little 30 seconds of this, and that than actually living that out. So talk to me about what surrenders looked like in your life lately and what you've been learning about that.
Yeah. So this past year, I feel like the Lord has really just called me into this place of having to relearn surrender. And I feel like it's something that we're constantly learning, maybe in different capacities of whatever our life looks like at the time. But for me personally, just with all the fear that comes with having a child, obviously it's so exciting and so beautiful and so precious, but then you start thinking about all the things to be worried about financially, and am I going to be a good mom, and what if I need to switch my job because now I have a baby and my baby's my priority now, and all of the questions and all of the what ifs and all of the fear that come with just uncharted territory, something I've never done before. We've talked a lot about first before and how we need to give ourselves grace for the first time you do something, because it's just hard and you're learning and it's difficult. But through all that, I feel like the Lord has just taken me on this journey of relearning surrender. And honestly, very practically for me, that has looked like, okay, some days I'm going to set a timer on my phone for 15 minutes. I'm going to let myself worry about this for 15 minutes. And when that 15 minutes is up, I'm going to stop and I'm going to recite a Psalms, or I'm going to go get busy about something else. And if my mind wants to go back to it, then I'm going to go back to that Psalms, and I'm just going to repeat that over and over. I'm going to find practical ways to be okay, Lord, I'm going to let myself have 15 minutes to worry about it because I'm human and I'm going to worry about it. So I'm going to give myself the time to have my emotions. But then I'm if I really want to surrender this, then I'm going to do it in a way that this plays out practically. So here's my 15 minutes. And then when that's up, I'm focusing on you. I'm going to go do the laundry. I'm going to go do the dishes. But if my mind starts to wander and get worried again, then the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want anything to lay down. Just practically walking that out, because I feel like it's so easy to say oh, I'm going to surrender this. I'm going to surrender this. And like you said, so much easier said than done. But sometimes we really have to just get practical about okay, what does that actually look like? How do I actually do it? And so for me, that was what I did. And I feel like it worked, and it helps me.
I love that.
And I'm definitely at a better place now with just all of that worry and all of the unknown, because there's so much unknown in pregnancy too. Even now, she could come any day and she'd be fine, but also I have no idea what that would look like, or there's just so much unknown to that. So just really trusting. And then, there's my deep breath. And then putting my feet where my mouth is and just saying, I'm going to walk this out. I'm actually going to do it. And that's what it looks like.
That is so good. I love that. I've actually never heard of that. Taking 15 minutes and, allowing yourself that, because you are human and you're going to feel that. But even, God being a part of that, that 15 minutes and then reading. It's not here's my 15 minutes of human and then I'll go do a God thing.
Right.
I love that it's God's with you in that and in the worry and hearing that, and he cares for those things and wants to take those burdens. And now let's cover it with truth. I kind of had a moment like that yesterday where one of our friends went through just something extremely tragic, and I was just distraught over it. And I called Steph. I was like, hey, I'm not going to come in this morning because I just need to I just need to be with my girls, and I just
Yeah.
need to, like, think about this and everything. And she was like, and then I was, like, kind of scattered and stressed, and she said, Sadie, like, you need to go sit with the Lord.
Yeah.
And it was really good encouragement because, you know, you say, like, oh, I need to be with the Lord, or I need to pray about this, I need to be with the Lord, but then to actually, like, go and do it is another thing. And I can be very, like, oh, in passing, you know, it's like, okay, God, like, on my way to go get Havens, like, okay, God, I need you to be with me right now, blah, 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 like, I love you, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, she's like, you need to go, you need to sit with the Lord, and you need to process what just happened. And my rocking chair is, like, my place to do that. Like, I just, if anybody ever saw me in my rocking chair, you'd be like, you crazy, because I'm just, like, literally talking out loud to God. But, like, that's my place. I feel like I'm going and, like, sitting to talk to my dad, like, in relationship. And so I went out there. And I just got so emotional, and I was so mad, and I was just like, why would you do that? How could you do that? Like, I know that the why question isn't important, but right now it feels necessary, like, just, like, giving it all out. And then as I kept talking, like, I just got to this place where I was just like, but God, like, this world is not our home.
Yeah.
You are our hope.
Yeah.
And, like, if it wasn't for you, we would have no hope
Yeah.
of this fallen world. And, like, all of a sudden, like, my language started to shift, and it wasn't that I wanted it even to shift,
Yeah.
and it wasn't that I tried.
Yeah.
It was just that I couldn't help it, because as I sat with him, I was beginning to see his character. I was beginning to see his hand in it. And so I love that. It's like putting your feet where your mouth is. Like, not just saying, like, I'll pray. Not just saying, I need to be with the Lord. Not just saying, I need to surrender this. But, like, get up, walk outside, sit in your rocking chair, set your timer for 15 minutes, and work it out, you know? Because I think if I didn't do that, I would have not moved on, you know, that day. And maybe not even today, you know? We would have still been in that anger and that mad and that resentment. And then I got to the place of, like, you're my living hope, you know? And so I love that you shared that. There's such a practicality to walking life with God,
Absolutely.
you know? And so that is so good. And you brought up the first thing, which I think is really good that we've talked about, and not a lot of people probably even know, have maybe even heard that before. I think it was something that my counselor said, I can't remember, but she was talking about how, like, you have to give yourself grace, because almost every season of your life, you're experiencing something for the first time. And especially with, like, a baby, like, it's your first time to be pregnant. It's your first time to have a baby. It's your first time to have to, like, be a mom and all these things. But even in just life, like, it's your first time to go to college. It's your first time to be a junior in college. It's your first time. Like, there's always going to be something that you're doing for the first time. And so you have to give yourself grace to, like, learn how to do things, you know? And so I love that you brought that up. And on that note, during that conversation that you're referring to, me and Grace were, like, on our way back from a LA local Bible study one night, and we just got into this conversation on, like, your first time and giving yourself grace, because you had just kind of been, like, I feel like overthinking and being hard on yourself in this season. So do you want to share a little bit about that? Because I think that is so relatable to what so many people feel anytime they're going through something for the first time.
Yeah. So really just that, and there's actually another conversation that I'm thinking of too that I don't know if you remember, but I had a really hard day at work, and it was, like, my first time having a hard day in this capacity that I had it at.
Yes, I do remember.
And that was actually when you shared it with me about you were like, you know, I had basically just poured my guts out there. I think I was crying. I'd, like, spilled it all out to y'all. And I was like, I was just struggling with feeling like, what could I have done better? What could I have done more? And just, like, feeling inadequate, and also just feeling like that was so hard. How do I navigate just the emotions of what I just saw, and how do I process, and just all the things. And
so I don't think you said you're a nurse.
Yes. I'm a nurse. I love my job, but sometimes it's very hard, and sometimes it's really emotional and very sad, and most of the time it's beautiful and sweet, but sometimes it's really hard too. And so I had a really hard day at work, and, like, I think this had been days after too. Like, it had taken me a while to even just be able to talk about it. But by the time I finally did, I, like, shared it with y'all, and Sadie had just encouraged me in, like, it's okay to, like, have a first and not do it perfect. Like, it's okay to have a first time, whatever it may be, and fail and mess up and miss a step, or even just feel inadequate, or whatever that looks like, because we can't expect, we're human, you know, like, we can't expect ourselves to get it right on the first time, but God's grace fills in the gaps where we fall short. And if we're trusting on him and leaning in him, like leaning on him, then like there is grace to cover that. And so like, and that goes right along with the overthinking too. Like just overthinking, like I could replay every little piece of that day and like all the events that happened and all the ways I felt inadequate and like all the ways I wanted to do better and be better next time and all the things, and like, but that doesn't necessarily fix anything for the future. Like what does actually help me for the future is realizing like, okay, the Lord gave me grace in those moments, and how can I actually like go back and look at that day instead of seeing all the things that I did wrong? How can I look at that day and see all the times that God gave me grace for where I was falling short? Yeah. And so like just kind of reframing your thinking and just like giving yourself the grace that you would give other people. Yeah. You know, like so many times I feel like I'm so quick to give other people grace, but then if it were me, I'd be like, oh man, I should have done better. I should have whatever. You know, like I don't have that same grace for myself, but God does. And so like if I can just see it through that lens.
Good. Sometimes you gotta think about what you would say to someone else.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, I would totally, if anybody else did that, I'd be like, you're fine. You're doing a great job. This is your first time I've experienced that. But then to me, you're like, what is wrong with you? Get it together, you know, all that stuff. Y'all, I love good sleep. Don't we all love good sleep? And that's why you gotta have a good mattress. And I am so thankful I have an awesome mattress from Helix Sleep. They're a premium mattress brand that provides customized mattresses based on your unique needs and sleep preferences. The Helix lineup has 20 different models, including the luxury, big and tall, and even kid mattresses. People are also loving the Helix Elite collection, where every mattress has features like a built-in cooling cover, dual cushioning layers, and lumbar support for an awesome night of sleep or an amazing nap if you're into that. I sure do love a good nap whenever it presents itself to me. Everyone is unique and everyone sleeps differently, and that's why Helix puts so much effort into having different models to choose from that are designed for specific types of sleepers. Helix offers models with memory foam layers, enhanced cooling features, and a hybrid design of coils and foam to give your spine extra TLC. It's the perfect combo of comfort and support. With all these options, the best way to find out which one works for you is to take the Helix Sleep Quiz. You'll find your perfect match in under 2 minutes, just like Christian and I did, and that perfect mattress ships straight to your door for free. So it doesn't get much easier than that. Christian and I were actually matched to the Helix Midnight Mattress. We love it, and not only do we love it, we just actually got another one because we're about to move into our new house, and we wanted one for our guest room as well, for our guests to have an amazing night's sleep. It's great for us. We both are side sleepers, so that was pretty easy to choose for us because we do have that in common. But he actually gets really, really hot at night, which makes me hot. And so we also got a cooling system in there as well, which is awesome. So Helix definitely cares about what is best for all of us. Helix knows that the best way to try out a mattress is to actually sleep on it. So they offer a 100-night trial to test it out. Plus, I love that the setup is so fast and easy. All you have to do is literally take it out of the box. And it's not just me saying this. Helix was picked the #1 mattress by Wired magazine, and it's recommended by many leading sleep doctors and chiropractors as a solution for improving sleep. All models are American made and come with a 10 or 15-year warranty, depending on the model that you choose. So right now, Helix is offering 20% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/Sadie. This is their best offer yet, and it won't last long. With Helix, better sleep can start tonight, my friends. Go to helixsleep.com/Sadie.
So much easier to have that for other people and for whatever reason not for ourselves.
Yeah.
But too, just seeing, I think another thing is just seeing the big picture, like. And I thought about this not that long ago of like, I don't know why I thought about this not that long ago, but my grandma always used to watch Bob Ross with her, and he would always make those like little happy accidents, you know. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Bob Ross, but if you haven't, he would like make a mistake on his painting and he'd call it a happy accident. But like every time at the end, the painting was so beautiful. Yeah. And so like even when we mess up, like
it's good.
If you can step back and look at the big picture, like, am I living my life for Christ? Am I being faithful where he's calling me to be faithful? If I'm doing these things, then like the big picture, I'm gonna mess up because I'm human. Yeah. I'm gonna fall short of the glory of God. I'm gonna sin all of these things. Even in Christ, I'm going to do all those things. But, like, if I'm repenting, if I'm asking for forgiveness, if I'm still coming back to the feet of Jesus, and, like, my life's goal is to live for the Lord, if my life's goal is to share the gospel and, like, love others well and do all these things, then, like, big picture is, it's going to be beautiful, even with all my happy little accidents, you know, like, it's going to be pretty because the Lord's grace has covered it, and He's the one that's orchestrating it, and He's the one that's painting the picture, even with all of our mistakes, even with all of our shortcomings.
Come on with that analogy. That is so good. I love that so much. You're so right. Like, look at the bigger picture. And it made me think about when you were talking about how it's the first time, and sometimes, like, we think we don't have room to fail. We don't have room to learn. We don't have room to grow. For me, it's not even so much, like, yes, I get disappointed myself, but I also get, like, fearful that, like, God's disappointed in me, and that's, like, the heaviest thing. I was thinking about how, you know, I was just watching a video of a dad teaching his daughter to ride a bike, and it was just so sweet because she, like, has her little knee pads on, her elbow pads, she's got the helmet, and she's decked out. Like, this girl is not going to get hurt. And she's starting to go, and she's so nervous, and the dad is, like, so proud, and he's just, like, guiding her, and then he kind of lets her go for a little bit, and she's, like, so proud she's riding. But odds are, like, she's probably going to fall. Like, it's the first time she's ever ridden a bike. But, like, she's going to fall, but she's not going to get hurt, and the dad is still so proud that she even tried, you know? And I was thinking about that, like, in the context of God, like, when we go out for the first time, like, God's leading us in faith to do something. Like, there's going to be a moment where it's going to feel scary. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, I've never done this before. But, like, you're guarded. Like, you're covered. Like, you might fall, but you're not going to get hurt, you know? And so I just was thinking about that as you were explaining that, and just think that's a really beautiful picture of who God is. I love that you're a nurse. I love it. I love that I have a friend that's a nurse. I love hearing your stories. I think it's just so sweet. And I just love nurses because they just, like, changed my life in the hospital whenever I had both my kids. Like, they just made it the best experience. And it's so cool to think you get to do that for other moms. And we've talked about before that message Louis Giglio preached about passion, purpose, and designer genes. And he was mainly focusing on that verse, whatever you do, do it for the glory of God. And you, like, exemplify that so well. And I think so many people, especially because church culture is like, what are you called to? What are you called to? And sometimes, like, you can get in your head and be like, well, is it okay that God, like, calls me to be a nurse, to be a teacher? Like, it might not be ministry, but, like, all things are ministry, right? And we talk about that a lot. So talk to me about just, like, your calling, and because I think that people, like, way overthink that word, speaking of overthinking, and how it doesn't just mean that you have to be a nurse. That can be anything, but you're using it right now as a nurse.
Absolutely. So even for me recently, like, since finding out I was pregnant, and, like, feeling my priorities just shift a little bit towards my baby and what that looks like for me at work. And I work 3 12-hour shifts right now, which is great because it allows me a lot of flexibility. But it also is just 12 hours away from my baby once she's here. And so I was just, like, thinking through that, and I'm like, man, I've always felt called to be a nurse, actually. Like, I've always felt called to this since I was 12 years old. We had dear friends who had a baby in the NICU, and we went to visit them. And from that moment on, I was like, I'm going to be a NICU nurse. And now I am. And that's so cool to just see God's hand on that and how He placed that on my heart. But I had to kind of come to a place of, like, okay, I've always felt called to this. And so then I think I kind of got stuck in that of, like, but I've always felt called to this. Like, is it okay if when my baby comes eventually I do something else? Like, what does it look like when my kid's going to be in school? Like, what do all these things look like future-wise? And what if it means I'm not a nurse anymore? And, like, what does that look like? Or if I'm not, maybe I'm a nurse, but maybe I'm not a NICU nurse, and that's the specific one I felt called to, or whatever. And so really just kind of realizing that, like, again, like, it goes back to the big picture thing. Like, if my life is lived for Christ, that is my first calling. Like, that is my like, close hand, like, not gonna change, like, every single day. If I'm living my life for the Lord, if I'm sharing Christ with people, if I'm loving people well, if I'm praying for them, if I'm doing all these things, like, then whatever I do, like, it falls under that umbrella. And it can, and, like, God allows it to. Like, He may have called me to be a NICU nurse. I believe that He did, and I believe that He did for this time right now. But if later he calls me to something else, then that's okay too.
Yeah.
Like, my calling is to listen to whatever he has called me to. And so that can change. Like, if for this season it's this, and if for another season it's something else, like, that's going to be great and beautiful too, because it's something that he's called me to. So I think it's just like realizing that, like, what is your first priority, and what really is your calling. Like, if your calling is to be a follower of Christ and live that out well, then, like, what does that look like in any season, you know?
And I think that, like, your calling is, yes, like, it's the first things first. Like, you're a follower of Christ. It's to give glory to God in all that you do and bring people to him. So if that's, like, your calling, then maybe it can be said wherever God leads you to do that.
Yeah, that's probably better.
Then you can, because I think that, but that's how we all say it, you know? It's like calling, and then it's confusing because you're like, I'm going to this, I'm going to that, blah, blah. And sometimes you can feel like they're in contradiction with each other, but I think it's more like you're called to live a life for Christ. You're called to live in obedience for him and go and tell, you know, the whole world about the good news of the gospel. And then God will then lead you down the path that's for your life. Like, maybe to be a nurse, maybe to be a teacher, maybe to be a preacher, maybe to be a podcast host, whatever it is that God calls you to or leads you to, you will do your calling wherever you're led. And I think that is like, that just takes all the pressure off of trying to like figure out if I'm doing the right things. It's like, I can know in confidence I'm doing the right thing if I can say I'm following Jesus with all my heart. I'm leading people to him. I'm telling people about the good news. I can say in confidence I'm doing that, and I'm doing that right where God has me and where my feet are planted. And so, like, you can go to bed at night knowing, like, I'm fulfilling my calling. Not because you're in the job that you thought you needed to be in.
And that's so good, too, because then it's not circumstantial.
Yes, you can't lose
it. Yeah, you can't lose that calling. Like, you can't lose that initial.
That wouldn't even make sense.
Right.
We could lose our calling because
we lost our job, right?
Know?
Or
what if they just had to let you off? Like, what if they were like, what if the hospital shut down? They're like, we have to let you off, and then you were like, did I just lose my calling?
Right. Yeah.
Like, God's too big for that. Your purpose is too massive for your calling to be based off your circumstances. Like, if your circumstances change, it doesn't mean your call changes. If the hospital shut down tomorrow, you could do what you're called to do in your home.
Exactly.
You know, and I think that is a really good way to lay it out, because man, I have so many conversations like this with especially people in their 20s, like trying to figure out what they're called to so that they don't miss it, and they're thinking, like, if I choose the wrong major, if I get the wrong job, if I don't get the job because they chose someone else, that they think that's like where their calling lies, and it's like, no, like your calling's bigger than that. It's bigger than a job title. It's bigger. It's to follow Jesus and to lead others to him. So I love that.
And don't miss that you can do it wherever you are, wherever you are. Like, don't miss that, because it's so easy to like, I feel like, just give ourselves excuses of like, well, I'm going to choose this major and I'm going to do this and I'm going to give God glory. But like, if that is the bottom line, if that's your goal, then like, do that as you're choosing your major. Do that as you're, you know, like, and be intentional about it. I guess that's what's like so easy to miss, is just the intentionality part of like,
so true.
Like, I don't know. Even when I first started working, I was like, man, I want to be the hands and feet in Jesus in my workplace. Like, how do I do that? I am a NICU nurse, so I work with babies, so I'm not getting to share the gospel with them, but how do I like practically live that out? Well, I pray over my babies every single day. Like, I'm praying for their health. I'm praying that they would come to know the Lord one day. I'm praying that like lots of babies in the NICU, like, or babies in general, just don't come from good family situations. Like, I'm praying over their family. I'm praying like all these things for their future that I'm never going to see the fruit of, and that's so okay. But like, I'm still choosing to be intentional about what I can do with where I am, even if it looks different, like totally different than maybe even where I'm going to be in a different season, or like where I'm going to be next week. Like, do it in the grocery store. Do it. It doesn't have to even be like ministry related. Like, even in relationships, like everywhere, anywhere, all the time.
I don't know how y'all feel about grocery shopping, but sometimes it can just be a hassle, especially with 2 kids, because you gotta get both of them out of the car. Somehow you gotta fit a car seat and you gotta push a thing, and it just gets a little bit chaotic. So y'all know I am loving a good delivery service, and groceries are no exception. It might be my favorite delivery service. That's why I love Hungry Root. It's the easiest way to get fresh, high quality groceries delivered right to my door. I took a fun short quiz to show Hungry Root my tastes, goals, habits, and preferences, and they kept all that that in mind and built my personal cart. Hungry Root has some great suggestions for produce, high quality meats, seafood, snacks, sweets, and more. They even had seasonal snacks and fall favorites. I actually just got a pumpkin spice protein shake and it was so delicious from Hungry Root. I love that I was in charge of all my suggestions. I decided to try and I could add in any other items that I wanted as well. And I got some really great stuff. I got so much stuff in this box. I got meals that I could actually cook, but also groceries. I had sweets, like sweet snacks that actually had healthy ingredients. And I live in a pretty small town, so we don't have a huge variety of grocery options around here. And sometimes I miss the big city life because I had all these grocery stores that I like. But Hungry Root has kind of filled that gap for me because they have such great quality produce, such great quality bread, such great quality meals. And so it's been awesome. So don't you hate it when something good gets forgotten about in the back of the fridge? I know it's the worst, but Hungry Root has thousands of easy ideas for everything they send me. So nothing gets pushed back to the back. You can kind of make something with everything. I love to keep it simple as well. Everything Hungry Root offers follows a simple standard. It's got to taste good, be quick to make, and contain whole, trusted ingredients. So it doesn't really get much better than that. That's all I'm really looking for in my groceries anyways. Hungry Root makes it easy to spend less time shopping and cooking and more time eating food you actually enjoy. Right now, Hungry Root is offering my listeners 30% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. That is a no small thing. So just go to hungryroot.com/whoa to get 30% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/whoa. Don't forget to use our link so that they know that we sent you over there. Go enjoy, friends. I love that. Everywhere, anywhere, all the time. I also think, even for people listening, for those who are doctors and nurses, I think about doctors and nurses a lot. And I think about them and pray for them because I'm like, y'all are positioned in such an amazing place where it's a hard place. And the hospital is not amazing in the sense that hard things happen in it, but an amazing place where y'all can intercede for families who are going through hard things. And so it's like, if doctors and nurses have like a revival in their heart, and maybe they can't say it out loud because that might be inappropriate, but they can literally pray over these families. They can bring them to God, bring them to the throne room. And I'm like, that's a really powerful thought, And so y'all are just placed in such a unique place and an important place. And I love that. Gosh, you've said so many good things. I'm like trying to make sure I don't miss anything that you talked about and that you said. I'm sure I have, and I'll have to have you back on the podcast. Good thing I know where to find you.
That's right, you know where to find me.
But I do wanna hit on this because you do have like such a funny humor, and you just make me laugh. But you sent me a meme the other day that was like, this is so our life, and it's like people. It was something about like, people who choose not to laugh at farts are really like the worst because you're choosing to have the same amount of farts as everyone else, but less laughter. And it was something along those lines. And I was like, you know what? That's so real. And that is just really sad. But on that note, you do laugh at everything. You have the best laugh. And my mom always would tell us don't be selfish with your laugh. She would always tell us if somebody says something funny, laugh at them. Don't be selfish or stingy with your laugh. It makes people feel good when you laugh with them and laugh at them. And you are the best person to just laugh at whatever. And so where does that come from? Is that just a part of your personality? Do you choose joy? Where does that come from in your life? And even just the laughing at the nonsense that you laugh at?
Yes. Truly, this goes back to my upbringing a little bit, and I feel like growing up with all brothers, because boys are just like that. They just think it's hilarious to fart, and they think it's hilarious to make poop jokes or whatever. And so I think a lot of that humor comes from them. And then my dad is the biggest dad joke person, all the puns, all the things. And so probably a lot of it stems from that, rooted in that, but also just choosing to have the joy, choosing to laugh at the silly things, the stupid things, the embarrassing things that we do. Oh my gosh, the amount of times we embarrass ourselves, But it's so much more fun if you just laugh at it,
Yeah.
you know? Like, so much more enjoyable and actually less embarrassing if you just choose to laugh at it. Like,
it's actually like, it's
it
actually
actually
the
fixes
worst
it a little bit.
when
like,
you don't laugh at it, because then it's more embarrassing. And it's like, your pride won't let you laugh at it. And then later you're laying in bed, you're like, oh, I'm so dumb. Like, why didn't I just laugh? That would have been way funnier for everyone involved.
Exactly. And like, he may kill me for saying this, but my husband always says that like the most embarrassing thing is an unintentional fart. Like if you fart intentionally, it's not that embarrassing because like you're just gonna laugh at it. But if it's unintentional, then you're like caught off guard and you're like, oh, that's actually embarrassing. But if you just, and I always tell him like, but if you just laugh either way, like no one would ever know, you know. But he's like, but I'm caught off guard, like I can't laugh about it because I'm like, oh, like I didn't mean to do that.
That is hilarious.
Just laugh at all of it. No one's gonna know. It's way better to have the joy and just
love
laugh.
it. I think that's so good though, because a lot of people just do take life way too seriously. And that's not to say that serious things don't happen in life. I think that the point is, so many serious things do happen in life that you have to laugh.
To be able to
it's
laugh.
like whenever, like my mom used to say, you gotta laugh to keep from crying.
Yeah,
you know, and
absolutely.
like you say that in funny moments, but it's like, no, really, a lot of times you do have to laugh to keep from crying.
Yeah.
Like last night, I posted that story on my Instagram because, like I mentioned, it was a hard day, and I was just like singing, and which I like don't record myself singing. I just was doing it because I love that song, and like the words were like ringing so true. And so I was like, I'm just gonna record myself saying this. This is truth to me. And then Christian walks in. He's like, Christ on my love. He's like singing the song like
trying
so
to match
high,
the
and he's like
tone.
trying to match the tone. And then I just like fade out, and he's just there like, all my days and my nights. It was like so funny. But I just started laughing, and it was just so good to just like laugh. And I think sometimes we're like, oh, we can't laugh because this is too hard. We can't laugh, and you almost feel like guilty for laughing it. But I think that God gave us the amazing capacity as humans to rejoice and to mourn, and we've talked about that even about.
And I will say, like, laughter has saved me and Bryant from so many fights.
Oh, that
like,
is
if you can laugh in the middle of an argument, like, you're gonna be like, okay, like, we're fighting over something silly or like whatever, but like, it really does save you from so many, not only awkward moments, but just moments of like coming back down to earth and being like, okay, this really isn't that big of a deal. Like, okay, I'm actually upset over literally nothing. Like, you know, like, let me just humble myself a little bit.
Oh,
like,
it does take humbling.
it takes a lot of the pressure off things.
That's
it brings
good.
like joy back into the situation, brings you back down to earth, humbles you a little bit. Like,
we all need a little humble pie.
Yes.
But actually, when me and Christian were dating, we always ask couples, like, what's your best piece of marriage advice?
Yeah.
And someone said, they're like, there will always be a moment in every argument that something funny happens, and you're gonna feel like, don't laugh, like don't laugh, like you're gonna feel this like like this thing rise and tell you like, do not laugh. Zinte said, when that happens, just laugh.
Yep.
Like it will
true.
stop
That's
the argument,
so good.
and it is so true. Like you know
so
it.
true.
Like even as I'm saying it, you're like, yes. Like there is a moment.
And you like try to fight it. You're like, oh, it's not funny.
I know
but...
it's not funny. Like you try not to even look at them because you're like, I cannot laugh right now. We had a moment like this. I'll just be completely honest. We were having an argument the other day, and I said something that was funny, but I was not ready to laugh, and I knew I was about to laugh. I just opened the door, and I like walked outside for a second, and I was like, I can't get this up yet. But it's like, no, just laugh, like just get it over with, you know. And so because it's just, you know, most of the time it's just a silly thing, anyways.
It is.
You need to laugh, so I love that. I think that laughter really is like the best medicine sometimes, and it's just good for the soul. The last thing I want to ask you about is kind of a hard topic, but on the note of being able to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. We talked about this, like we are walking through like so many different seasons with all of our friends, like and especially when it comes around the topic of pregnancy, like. Some of our friends are getting pregnant. Some of our friends are waiting to get pregnant. Some of our friends have recently miscarried. Some of our friends are walking through really hard things with pregnancy, and some of us are walking through really sweet things. And it's been a very interesting balance of rejoicing with those who rejoice and mourning with those who mourn. And so can you speak to that a little bit? Because I know you're sitting here and you're pregnant, so obviously like this is a huge blessing and we're excited, but also you've been walking with friends who aren't. And so can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think a lot of people are probably in that stage where it's like maybe something good is happening for them and hard for a friend, or maybe they're the friend that they're in the hard season and their friend is walking through something good. Just speak to that a little bit, because I think that's the thing that a lot of people walk through.
Yeah, I think that really it just looks like whatever you can do to be a good friend in that season. So every season for friendship is going to look different.
Yeah.
And how do you love and support your friends well, regardless of what they're walking through?
Yeah.
Even the mundane days, like sometimes it's just like, hey, here's $10 on Venmo, go get yourself a coffee. You know, like that could just be an everyday thing. It doesn't have to be a happy or sad moment. But then in the happy moments, in the sad moments, like I think it really comes down to realizing like my friends' successes are mine in a way too, because like I love them and I want them to succeed, so then when they succeed, like that's a joy for me too. That's good. And like, why would I let anyone steal that from me? Like that's just another reason to be happy. That's just another reason to like give God glory. So if my friend's going through a season of like something really joyful, then I want to celebrate them well, and I want to be there to like realize that like this can be my joy too. Like I can share with that with you, and like escalate your joy by just being joyful with you and like being excited for you and being happy for you. And then the same thing in like hard times. I think like a lot of times for the times that are hard, like people are hesitant to walk through their friends with that, because it's a burden on you too. Like it if you really do bear one another's burdens, like it can feel burdensome to walk through something really hard with someone. But there's so much beauty in it, because God teaches us so much about like ourselves and about sorrow, like, and like all of these things as we do it, and just like realizing that you would want that too if it was you going through the hard time. Good. And so just being willing to like sit with people in silence, cry with people, like do the uncomfortable things, talk about the uncomfortable things, or maybe not talk about the uncomfortable things if they don't want that. Like, but just being willing to just be there. And I think one of the reasons we do it is because we would want that. We would need that if it was us going through that, but also just we're called to it. We're called to bear one another's burdens. And then just practically, like, how does that look? It's going to be different. I feel like it's different for every person, what they need, but like, just being willing to say like, okay, yes, Lord, I'm gonna try my best to love this person well in this season, even if I don't do it perfectly. Even if I, like say the wrong things, do the wrong things, like just give me grace to cover that, because I want to love my friend well in this hard season. It's
so good. It goes back to that word you used earlier, intentionality. Like it starts with intentionality, and intentionality can cover a load of kind of like mishaps. Like, if you're being intentional and you accidentally say the wrong thing, like I feel like people see your heart and they're like they're here, and I feel like when it's truly like your friend, like even if you say the wrong thing, they'll just be like, hey, that's actually not really helpful, but I love you and I'm thankful that you're here, but just like being there and showing that you care goes such a long way. And I love that you said that, like, if my friend succeeds, like, it's my success too. Like, I rejoice too. And that's, my mom always says, like, all ships rise, together. Like, when the tide comes, like, all the ships rise together. Mia Fields was on my podcast recently, and she was saying how, like, someone else's miracle doesn't take away from hers. It actually gives her faith to believe for her own.
Absolutely.
And so I thought that was, like, really cool. And I love that you just said that. Gosh, so much advice here. You are so wise. You're so encouraging. Now everyone knows why I love this girl, and I'm so thankful for her. And thank you for being on the podcast 9 months pregnant.
Yes.
Thank you for bearing the out-of-breathness. After you have the baby, you'll have to come back and tell us the birth story, all about it, all the things. But I love you, friend. This was so fun.
Yes, it's so good to get to chat with you.